All right, update on that cut, aka trying to get leaner. So I discussed this with my coach, and originally I had this event planned, which I'm still going to, and I was like, oh, just, I want to tighten it up for that, just to look and feel really good. But what we decided is I would much rather build up my calories as high as I can, like as high as possible right now, because I've had all these issues for the last year with my stomach. Like, we've kind of been dealing with weird fluctuations in my body, from like a bunch of water weight to bloating and whatnot, and it finally feels like it's at like a really good baseline. And so I was like, what if we build my calories up as high as I can, and then we'll do our cut more in like a month or 2 months. And so now I'm going to take you on the journey to see what it's like to build up calories, and how we do it as a step up, and how we watch like weight like averages compared to the calories. And this is like usually the biggest part that's missing for most people. They can diet or they can lose a bunch of weight, but they don't understand that in order to do that, they are eating less, so their calories are really low. And then they stop the diet and they start eating in abundance again, and that's when they gain weight back, because they're eating more than their body actually needs to maintain that new loss. And so we're starting me at like 1690 on the calories, and it's like 120 protein, 200 carbs, and I think it's like 50 fat or something like that. I've got a little flexibility within it, but I'm gonna work to hit that 1700 a little bit tighter day to day. I was giving myself more flexibility, like between 14 and 1800, but then this way I can really watch to see when I can step up in those calories, get them as high as I can, and then I'm gonna come back down. But I already told you I was going to take you on a ride on how to lose weight. So what I'm going to do today is give you this cool demo of calorie-dense food versus nutrient-dense food, and how if you know this one thing, it would be easy for you to make some own trade-offs or substitutions with what you're currently eating, just to bring the calories down or to bring your volume of food up without a lot of calories. And when we do that, that actually helps move the needle in terms of fat loss. Because I still get from people that tracking macros is a big pain in the butt. And I get it, right? Like, we all can have our own opinion, but at the end of the day, if you're wondering why you're not getting the results, but you don't really have like data like accurately to go off of, I would just say, hey, look at, like, if you're gonna put the time and effort in, how do you get the biggest bang for your buck? It'd be like if you're saving to buy a house, would you like never look at your budget? Like, you would just be like, oh, I'm never gonna pay attention to like what I'm spending and what I'm saving. Well, no, and it's the same thing with this, right? It's not unnatural to do. It's just you're just taking a little bit of help and knowing exactly what it is you're having, so you can get to your result faster and then not have to stay there as long. And so these are gonna be easy tips that are gonna help you to look at what you're currently eating and how you might be able to change it up to bring your calories down without having to track if you don't want to, and get some results. Oh, and if you're new to the channel, I just wanna say welcome. I'm Angie. This is my little place for food, fitness, and fun, and kind of what I do over in my coaching business, and how I live my life, and how I've made myself not only physically really fit, but mentally and emotionally through some different skill sets and things I've learned along the way. So welcome. If you're coming back, hey, thanks for checking me back out. And always let me know, guys, in the comments, what would you like to see more of? What's helpful? Just let me know. Happy to make videos. Okay, so I saw somebody else like do a demo like this on Instagram, and I was like, that's a really good visual. I'm going to do that, okay? So calorie-dense food is food that's not that big in size, but packs a lot of calories. Nutrient-dense food is food that has a lot of nutrients that's gonna help your body tell itself it's more full because of the nutrients, but also because of the volume of food. So it's gonna fill up your stomach more, and it takes longer to digest and absorb. Whereas something like that's more calorie-dense, it's closer broken down to how it would be once it's actually digested and absorbed in your body, so it just goes through you quicker, okay? So we're gonna take the first example. I'm gonna do this based off of calories, okay? I'm not even gonna tell you like carbohydrates versus fats, any of that. I just want you to understand how this is the same amount of calories, but you could clearly tell which one's gonna fill you up more. I don't even know if you could eat this amount of strawberries. Okay, so up first, I wrote it down so I don't forget my numbers. We've got 120 calories of shortbread Girl Scout cookies, okay? Pretty delicious. One serving is 4 cookies. Now, if you've had them, you know they basically melt and crumble in your mouth and they are gone in seconds. And I don't know about you, but this would leave me feeling really, really hungry. So this is 120 calories. This, with the tops on, which clearly you would take the tops off, is also 120 calories. This is a large mason jar of strawberries. And I don't know, maybe most people could eat this, but this is going to fill you up more. So the first tip is look at the carbs or look at the processed food you're eating already and how many calories and how big it is as a serving, and ask yourself, is that really filling me up, right? If I'm gonna eventually have to drop calories, you wanna choose foods that are going to fill you up and stick with you longer. So you can start by just making some trade-offs for just straight up like calorie to calorie. Like, hey, first step as you try to lose weight is just look at what you're eating and how can you fill that or replace that with something that's more nutrient dense. And you might actually find that you couldn't eat this whole jar. So maybe you only eat half of it. Well, that's 60 calories. You already, by making that substitution from cookies to strawberries, dropped your calories by 60. As simple as that. Okay, let's do another example. Okay, this is going to be an example of what foods are going to be most satiating and still same calories, okay? This is 240 calories of bread. So these are 2 slices of bread. This is like one of these, like this is oat nut bread. The boys like this one, whole grain. You know, it tells you it's got 26 grams of whole grains. It's 2 grams fiber. I mean, it's a delicious bread. I'm not gonna lie, but I gotta tell you, 2 slices of this, I'm still starving. And like bread is one of those things that, I don't know about you, but it just tastes that good that I could just eat more and more and more. Like at restaurants, I have to be like, please don't bring the bread basket. Like I can't have that. And then what it does too, because it is more processed, like you get that blood sugar spike and then all of a sudden your blood sugar drops and you're like, oh, I'm so hungry, I want more. That's what's happening with processed food. So if that does happen and you're like, I need more bread, or like you're at the restaurant, set a timer for 10 minutes, you're probably having a blood sugar drop and it will come back up. Then you can make a more logical decision as to if you're actually hungry or if your blood sugar dipped for a little bit. But 240 calories, whoa. 2 slices, okay? In comparison to the exact same amount of calories of Yukon Gold potatoes. Now, most people, most women I know at least, would not probably eat this amount of potato. Again, that's the large mason jar. Exact same amount of calories. Which one do you think is gonna fill you up more? So if you're doing a lot of bread right now, an easy substitution would be a single ingredient starchy carb. So I'm using the potato as an example, but this could be oats, rice, lentils, whatever it is, something that has, it's like higher on the satiating index of foods, is going to keep you fuller longer. You might, again, not even be able to eat this amount. So just by making those substitutions, your calories might come down because maybe you can only eat one of these 2, and then it would only be like 120 calories. But why did I choose potatoes? So a lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't have white potatoes. And I'm like, why not, right? Like, okay, everyone says the sweet potato is the superfood. It's a great nutrient, but so are potatoes. And if you go Google like the most satiating foods out there, it's like the satiating index, guess what number 1, top of the list is? The one that satisfies people the most is the potato. And it's generally like a boiled or a baked potato. Because if you think about, let's say you had double this amount, that would be like over 400 calories. Try to imagine eating 2 jars of potatoes. Like you would be crazy full. But what the cool thing about the satiating like index or the satiety index is that this is the top on the list for the way it's prepared and the way the texture is. Potatoes are still potato chips, but because of the way those are prepared, they're not gonna fill you up as much, right? So another great substitution is really looking at, easy go-to food you have right now, whether it is bread or chips, and think about, okay, how can I make another switch to fill me up? And you might not even be able to eat that much. And there you go. That's number 2 for my example. Coming up next, a healthy food that's a lot of calories and how you could switch it for a processed food and bring your calories down. I want you to watch me measure this one, okay? A food that a lot of people are like, it's so good, it's so healthy for you. Olive oil. It's a great nutrient for you. Olive oil is a fat. And if you remember anything about like where calories are actually from, it's mostly your macronutrients, the nutrients you consume in bulk, macro meaning bulk, big, right? So carbs and fats, 1 gram of them, if you look on a label, they actually equate to 4 calories. 1 gram of fat, it equates to 9, so it's more than double. Nothing wrong with having fat, but you just have to be mindful of, is there a place that you could sub the amount of fat that you're using in your diet to bring your calories down? You won't even feel like you're missing anything. So I want you to watch me measure this. 1 tablespoon of olive oil is 120 calories. Most people are not measuring it, and they will douse their salad and their veggies when they're cooking them, sometimes like meat. They have no idea. And this could be one easy switch that you make and have a processed food instead, just to bring your calories down. And it doesn't mean you can't use oil. I would just recommend measuring it and maybe like let it cover a bunch of food. So let me measure this. So I got 1, 2, 3, okay? Now again, very rarely are people using measuring spoons, but look at this. That barely covers any of this mason jar. This is 300 calories of olive oil, right? Like, and we know this is not gonna fill you up, right? It's not like having a starchy carb that has fiber in it that is meant to slowly digest to keep you fuller longer, or combining a fat with a carb that also can help slow things down, but that would not fill you up, okay? Now, thought I'd take a processed carb and show you. I love Cheerios, okay? Call me a kid. But I love the multigrain ones. And, you know, since I'm having some of these stomach issues, I'm gluten-free right now, which is big. It actually hasn't been a hard switch for me, but I still wanted some cereal. So I was like, well, I'll get Cheerios because I like them. Check this out, 300 calories of Cheerios. Okay, now, yes, this is processed. It might not keep you full as long, but just based off of volume, you can tell that if you were mindful, like this is 300 calories and this is 300 calories. Like you just have to kind of know yourself, and like if you had, this is 2 servings of cereal, if you had that, could you have an off button? If not, I'd put some parameters or boundaries around having that food when you're trying to eat less to lose weight. But if you can, and you know yourself and you know your behaviors in your own environment, and you're like, yeah, I could get away with 2 like servings, that'll be fine. Then I'll walk out of the kitchen. Awesome. This is a way you can actually sub-process food. This is more volume. This will stick with you longer compared to that, which is not very much. So, and then if you think about this 300 calories in terms of like eating a vegetable or a lean protein like chicken, I bet you if you measured out what would equate to 300 calories of chicken, most people couldn't stomach it. But that would fill you up like crazy. And again, you'd probably consume half, maybe third of that amount in a sitting and be way more full than having all that olive oil. Again, there's nothing wrong with this healthy fat. You just kind of have to know where calories come from and how much you might be using when you're cooking with it. And so that would be my third example. Okay, so those are 3 different examples, right? Like choosing more foods that are higher on the satiety index, looking at processed food versus really, really calorie dense, healthier foods, and then really understanding like, you know, like the strawberry example, like where volume will come from for less calories. And so if you're first starting out or you've done a bunch of diet plans, but you never really knew how you lost weight on them, first, every plan that's a diet plan is built to have you consume less calories than you burn in a day. Now, those plans don't know you and they don't know how many calories you're burning. So I always recommend the same as we do with our coaching program is really observing yourself and how much you eat and what your weight does in correlation to it to get real feedback so you don't have to eat 1,100 calories. But remember, those plans are having you eat less. And usually they do that by having you adding more single ingredient foods type in, because at the end of the day, the single ingredient foods are more nutrient dense. They will fill you up faster, resulting in you eating less or searching for more compared to a processed food that goes through you quicker, leaving you wanting more. And so if you're just starting out, just become observant of that. Look at just a label, right? Compared to, what does it say grapes is compared to cookies, right? Just become familiar with it and then start making those switches slowly for more of those satiating foods, nutrient dense foods for the calorie dense ones. I'm not saying take them all out. Like I just told you, like I eat Cheerios, I enjoy it, but I also know my other food is mostly to fill me up and for sustenance. And so that's one easy switch you can do right now without having to track calories, without having to kill yourself at the gym 7 days a week. It's just simple, mindful changes. Because at the end of the day, mindfulness and awareness precedes action. So the more mindful you are and the less reactive and chaotic you are with your food, the easier it's going to be to get the result. So that's that. That's all I got. Stay tuned for the next one. I'm going to keep giving you more easy tips and methods to implement if you're trying to get leaner. Alrighty, chat soon.